It all started as a joke. At least, that's what you thought. If you playful winks from Kaminari, extra enthusiasm from Kiri, a teasing remark from Sero, and a newfound protectiveness from Mina. But as time went on, you started to notice something. Like how Bakugo made sure to sit next to you in the common room, scowling at anyone who tried to take his spot, or how Kirishima suddenly became way too invested in being your sparring partner, grinning at every excuse to grab your hand and correct your form. Kaminari, ever the flirt, started making it his personal mission to make you laugh. Sero found ways to casually drape an arm around your shoulder or playfully tug at your sleeve, always finding excuses to touch you. And Mina, well, she took every opportunity to shower you with compliments, calling you cute, cool, and sweet, and everything in between. At first you thought it was just them being their usual chaotic selves, but when things got intense, you realized it wasn't. Number 1. Bakugo, the overprotective one. Bakugo had always been aggressive, but he was now aggressive for you. If anyone looked at you wrong, they'd get a death glare or so evil that it could melt steel. One afternoon, you were heading back from training when a second year accidentally bumped into you. Before you could even respond, Bakugo was in front of you, his red eyes burning with fury. "The hell you think you're doing, extra?" he barked. The poor student had stammered off, writing an apology while they ran. Clearly terrified. You sighed, nudging Bakugo in the ribs. "Relax, dude. I can handle myself." He scoffed. "Doesn't mean I gotta let these idiots mess with you," he murmured, crossing his arms. "You're mine. You're my friend. I ain't gonna let anybody mess with my squad." You raised an eyebrow but didn't push further. If there was one thing you knew, it was that pushing Bakugo to talk about his feelings was like poking a sleeping dragon. Number 2. Kirishima, the sweetheart. Now, Kirishima was different. He wasn't subtle at all, actually. "Hey, Wan, check this out!" You turned just in time to see Kirishima flexing his muscles dramatically. You laughed, shaking your head. Yeah, we get it, Kiri. You're very manly." "I just wanted to make sure you noticed," he said, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. You like strong guys, right?" You blinked. Yeah, sure." His grin seemed to widen. "Awesome, because, I've been working out extra hard lately." He flexed again, you rolled your eyes. Now your smile lingered, and Kirishima was so earnest it was hard enough to find it endearing. Number 3. Kaminari, the flirt. If Kirishima was straightforward, Kaminari was relentless. "Hey, YN," he said, popping down beside you one evening. "Want to hear a pickup line?" You sighed playfully. Do I have a choice?" "Nope. Okay, here it goes. Are you my villain? 'Cause you've stolen my heart." He groaned, but your smile betrayed you. "Oh my god, Cammy, that was terrible." "But did it work?" He wiggled his eyebrows. You nudged him away, laughing. Keep trying. Maybe one day we'll come up with a good one." "Ouch, my pride," he said, clutching his chest dramatically. "Guess I'll just have to win you over with my devastating charm instead." Number 4. Sero, the smooth operator. Sero wasn't loud like the others, but he had his own way of getting your attention. "Hey, YN," he called out, stretching lazily on the couch. "Come here for a sec." You walked over, only for him to casually loop his tape around you and tug you down beside him. "Oh, whoa, hey," he grinned. "Oops, looks like you're stuck here now." You raised an eyebrow. "Sero, Relax, just an excuse to get you closer," he said with a wink. Your face warmed up and you quickly freed yourself, but the spark on his face told you he knew exactly what he was doing. Number 5. Mina, the affectionate one. Mina was all about physical affection. "YN," she sung, wrapping her arms around you from behind. "You're so huggable, did you know that?" You chuckled. "I do now." She pulled back, grinning. "You should let me do your hair. Oh, wait, let's match outfits. Oh, what if we..." She launched into a list of coupley activities that made your head spin. Mina, are you trying to date me or adopt me?" You teased. She gasped dramatically. "Why not both?" You laughed. It was ridiculous. The breaking point. But it all came to a head one evening when the entire squad gathered in the common room. You were sandwiched between Bakugo and Kirishima while Kami, Sero, and Mina sat across from you. So, Sero began, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room. You frowned. The elephant? What elephant? And maybe the fact that we're all really into you. Governor said bluntly. You choked on your drink. What? Mina nodded. Yeah, girl, we all have a thing for you. Kirishima scratched his cheek, looking a bit sheepish. Yeah, it's kind of true. Bakugo scowled but didn't deny it. You looked round at their faces, your heart racing. You guys, what am I supposed to do with this information? Kaminari grinned. Well, you could pick one of us. You stared at them, feeling a mix of shock, amusement, and maybe a tiny bit of panic. And if I don't? Mina shrugged. Then we'll just keep competing for your attention till you do. You groaned, covering your face. Oh, you guys are impossible. But you love us, Kirishima said, nudging you playfully. You sighed, shaking your head. Yeah, I guess I do. The days following the Bakusquad's confession were chaotic, to say the least. You had gone from being a normal part of the friend group to being the center of an all-out competition. Everything became a battle. Who got to sit next to you at lunch, a heated rock, paper, scissors match on who got to be your sparring partner, a full-blown foot race to the training grounds, who got to walk you back to your dorm, a never-ending fight of I called first. And at first you thought they were joking, this was all just a big prank and they'd get bored of competing for your attention and things would go back to normal. But if anything, they just got worse. Bakugo really didn't change his approach much. He was still overprotective, still glaring at anyone who dared to look in your direction, but now it was almost possessive. Oi, he grunted one afternoon, tossing a protein bar at you after training. Eat. You caught it blinking. Oh, thanks? You look tired, he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. Can't have you passing out or whatever. It was sweet in a gruff Bakugo way. Before you could even thank him properly, Kirishima snatched the bar from your hands. Hey, Ryan, if you need a stack, I'll get them one. Kirishima said, handing you another bar, one with a little heart drawn on the wrapper. Bakugo growled. The hell is that supposed to be? A friendly gesture, Kirishima said, grinning. Chill, man. You sighed. Number 2. Kirishima. Now, if Bakugo was overprotective, Kirishima was devoted. He made sure that everything you needed was there, whether it was snacks, water, or a shoulder to lean on after training. But he got competitive. Really, really competitive. One day, Kaminari offered you his hoodie because you were cold. Here, Ryan, take mine, Kaminari said, pulling it over his head. Before you could even accept it, Kirishima had threw an arm around you and pulled you close. No need, I can warm you up myself. Kaminari gabbed at him. Bro, what? You had to shove Kirishima off before he suffocated in his muscle and warmth. 3. Kaminari. Now, Kaminari wasn't about to let anybody outshine him. If the others were being competitive, he was going to go all in. He upped his swearing to the max, hitting you with pickup lines at every opportunity. When, are you feeling quirk? Because you got me all charged. Oh my god, you groaned. But it wasn't discouraging him. He made it a mission to fluster you, always sneaking winks in and leaning a bit too close, whispering way too many compliments, and honestly, it was starting to work. Number 4, Sero. Sero, on the other hand, played the long game. It wasn't loud or expressive, but he had his own ways of getting your attention, and he was sneaky. Like how he always found a way to casually hold your hand, whether it was to help you guide you up the stairs, or to help you get a chair, or to help you through a crowd, whatever. Or how he'd wrap his tape around your wrist and pull you closer, just to smirk and say, guess you're stuck with me. One time you were about to sit on the couch when Sero suddenly tucked you forward into his lap instead. Whoops, he said, feigning innocence. Guess there's no room. You knew there was plenty of room, but the way you have his arms around you and was just on your shoulder, yeah, you didn't exactly complain. Number 5. Mina. Now, Sero was sneaky, but Mina was shameless. She didn't play around, she openly flirted with you, showered you with affection, and made sure you knew she was a contender. Wei-Yan, I had this dream about us last night. You raised an eyebrow. Oh? Yeah, she sighed dramatically. We were on a date, we were holding hands and being adorable, and then I woke up and I realized it wasn't real. You rolled your eyes. Mina? So obviously we have to go on a real date to make up for it, she said, grinning. You opened your mouth to protest, but before you could, Bakugo, who had been very quiet, slammed a hand on the table. That's it, he barked. Everyone turned to look at him. This competition is stupid, he glared at the others. We're all just wasting time trying to one-up each other instead of just letting them fucking choose. Kirishima sighed. He's got a point. Kaminari crossed his arms. I mean, yeah, but it was fun. Sero shrugged. But if Ryan did have to choose, who would it be? They all turned to look at you. You froze. Oh. You were suddenly very warm. At choosing? How could you choose? They were all amazing in their own way. Mina leaned in, smirking. Well, got a favorite? You swallowed. Kirishima gave you a reassuring smile. Oh, you don't have to answer right away, you know. Bakugo grunted. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. That did make you feel a little better. You weren't really ready to choose. Maybe you would develop stronger feelings for one of them over time, or maybe you just like them all too much just to pick one. Kaminari winked. Guess we'll just have to keep fighting for your love while you wait, huh? You groaned, covering your face. Oh my god, you guys are impossible. Mina giggled. Yeah, but you love it. Yeah, you did love it. But who the hell were you gonna choose? Yeah, maybe you did. After the chaos and the teasing and the constant tug of war for your attention, one truth stood out. You had feelings for Mina. It wasn't that you didn't care for the others. They were all incredible, each bringing their own kind of warmth and affection. But Mina, she had a way of making your heart race, of lighting up even the most exhausting days. It wasn't just her energy, her excitement, or her relentless flirting. It was the way she saw you, like you were the most fascinating thing in the world. And maybe you were ready to admit it. 1. The confession. The Bakusquad's competition had been going on for a few weeks now, and while things had definitely calmed down, the playful rivalry still lingered. But tonight, you had made up your mind. You were going to tell Mina. You found her lounging in the common room, scrolling through her phone. Her pink curls bounced as you turned, flashing you a bright smile. Why, Yen! Finally coming to admit I'm your favorite? She teased, winking. You took a deep breath, suddenly nervous. Actually, yeah. Her eyes widened. Wait, what? You scratched the back of your neck. I mean, I do like you, like, really, really like you. For once, Mina was speechless. She even blinked. Once, twice, and then a third time before slowly a wide smile spread across her face. Oh my god. Are you serious? You're like not messing with me? You chuckled. Would I joke about this? She let out a loud, dramatic gasp before practically launching herself at you, wrapping her arms tightly around your neck. Wei-Yan, you absolute legend! She squealed. You laughed, stumbling back. I take that to mean you like me too? She pulled back just enough to look at you in the eye. Her gaze was softer now. Are you kidding? I've been obsessed with you since, like, forever. I just never thought you'd actually pick me with all the competition. Your heart swelled. Mina, you were never just an option. You were always the one I kept coming back to. For once, Mina seemed flustered, her usual confidence wavering. Then she grinned. Okay, you're like officially the sweetest person alive. And before you could do or say anything about it, she pressed a quick kiss to your cheek. 2. Breaking the news. The next challenge? Well, it was telling the rest of the squad. Mina was excited, almost too excited. She insisted on making the big reveal, but you convinced her to just calm down and keep it simple. The two of you sat in the common room, waiting for the rest of them to show up. Kirishima and Sero arrived first, followed by Kaminari and Bakugo last, grumbling about how he had better things to do. Once they were all settled in, Mina nudged you, her eyes twinkling. Go on, tell them. You sighed, knowing this was no easy way to say it. Okay, so Mina and I are dating. Silence. Then, no way! Kaminari shut up, looking between you and Mina. Are you serious? Mina held up your intertwined hands. Yep. Kirishima let out a laugh, shaking his head. Man, I should have seen it coming. Sarah smirked. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. You guys are kind of perfect for each other. Bakugo, meanwhile, just scoffed, crossing his arms. Tch, whatever. Knew this whole thing was stupid anyway. But you caught the way his gaze softened for just a second before he looked away. You knew he wasn't that mad, just pretending not to care. Kaminari groaned dramatically, collapsing on the couch. Ugh, my poor heart. Why and how could you betray me like this? Sarah patted his shoulder. There, buddy. We'll find you another hopeless crush soon. You rolled your eyes, chuckling. You guys are impossible. Mina leaned close, whispering in, looking at you. And you love it. Yeah, maybe you did. Number 3, your first date. Now, Mina wasted no time planning your first official date. So, I'm thinking the arcade first, and then food, and then, oh, maybe we should do ice skating, she suggested excitedly. You grinned. Yeah, that sounds perfect. The arcade was chaotic. Mina was ridiculously competitive, challenging you at every game possible, and even though she won most of them, but had no shame in dramatically pouting whenever you beat her. At one point, she pulled you towards the claw machine, determined to win you a prize. For my adorable partner, she said, winking. She failed the first 3 times, but on the 4th try, she actually won a tiny plush alien. She placed it in your hands, looking immensely proud. Now, you have something to remind you of me, she teased. You chuckled. I mean, I do see you every day. She gasped dramatically. Yes, but now you can cuddle me. Your face warmed as you squeezed the plushie. Okay, you win. Dinner was just as lively. Mina practically bounced from her seat as she talked about everything and anything. When you finally made it to the ice rink, she was terrible. Despite her natural grace, Mina had zero coordination on the ice. She clung to your arm, laughing as she nearly fell for the 10th time. Okay, I admit defeat, she giggled. You are officially cooler than me. You smirked. Gonna put that in writing? She grinned. Never. And before you could react, she tugged you down to her, both of you landing on the heap of ice, laughing. Number 4. The little things. Dating Mina was a lot, but in the best way. She was always holding your hand, always thinking kisses to your cheek when you least expected it. She stole your hoodies and bombarded you with compliments and never made you feel like you had a dull moment. She was incredible. When you had a rough day, she was the first to notice, pulling you into a tight hug and whispering, "Tell me what's wrong, babe." When training left you exhausted, she'd surprise you with snacks, and she would grin as she handed them over. Maybe choosing Mina was the best decision you had ever made. But Wayne didn't expect to fall for Mina. Not because she wasn't amazing. She was vibrant and warm and a living firework of energy that never fizzled out. She could turn any dull moment into something magical. And she cared. She really cared in a way that made you feel seen. Like you were more than just another classmate, more than just another part of the squad. You had been so caught up in the chaos of all the flirting and the competition and the teasing battles for your attention that you actually hadn't really noticed who made your heart race more. But here were some of the moments you noticed. It was late, the dorms were quiet, everyone else was either asleep or too tired to cause much trouble. You were curled up on the couch in the common room, half awake, a blanket draped over your legs. Mina had plopped down beside you, close enough to make your shoulders touch. "You okay?" she asked softly. You hummed in response, fighting back a yawn. I'm just tired," she said. She studied you for a moment as you yawned, before reaching out and tucking a strand of hair behind your ear. It was such a gentle gesture, a stark contrast to her usual energy. It sent a wave of warmth through you. "And you should sleep." You turned to face her and suddenly, the air between you changed. It wasn't playful anymore, it wasn't a game, it was just you and Mina. And that's kind of when it hit you. You didn't just like her. You didn't just enjoy the attention. You wanted her, and now you finally have her. The competition didn't stop, but something did change. At first, you didn't think much of it. You still spent time with all of them. Bakugo was still overprotective, and Kirishima still showered you with attention. Sero still found ways to sneak in touches, and Mina was still relentless with her affection. But for some reason, you started noticing Denki more. Maybe it was the way he never seemed to take anything too seriously, while the others were constantly one-upping the stakes. Denki kept things lighthearted, like he didn't want to pressure you. Maybe it was the way he always knew you needed a laugh, or even on your worst days. Or maybe it was the way that he could make these little moments just linger. The way his fingers would touch you for a second longer when he brushed his hand against you. The way his jokes turned softer when it was just you two. The way his usual over-the-top flirting sometimes melted into something more genuine. It wouldn't be the first time, and you weren't sure when it started, but you were sure of one thing. Your heart started to beat a little bit faster around him. The one who waited. Denki never pushed you. The others had their own way of showing affection. Bakugo through protectiveness, Kiri through constant attention, Sero through sneaky closeness, and Mina through overwhelming enthusiasm. But Denki was just there. When you were overwhelmed by the chaos of constant competition, and he was the one who cracked a joke and made you laugh. When you needed space, he was the one who didn't make a big deal of it. One night, after a long day of training, you sat on the dormitory balcony, staring at the night sky. You needed a break from the madness, just some peace and quiet. Then the sliding door creaked open. Mind if I join you? You turned to see Denki, standing there with his usual lopsided grin. Something in his voice was softer than usual. You patted the empty spot beside you. Sure. He sat back down, stretching his legs out with a sigh. Long day? You have no idea, you muttered. He chuckled. Yeah, our friends are a lot. You snorted. That's a bit of an understatement. For a moment, you both just sat there, or just kind of in a comfortable silence, just absorbing each other's energy. Then Denki leaned on the back of his hands, looking up at the sky. You don't have to pick anyone, you know, he said suddenly. He glanced at him. Huh? The whole, competition thing, he said, waving his hands vaguely. You don't owe anybody an answer. If you want to keep things the way they are, it's, totally fine. You studied him, surprised. You're okay with that? He grinned. I mean, I would absolutely love to win your heart and have you fall madly in love with me. But, yeah, absolutely. He shot you a wink. But I also just, I don't know, enjoy being around you, even if it is just friends. Your heart clenched at that. He was so genuine. No pressure, no expectations, just Denki being Denki. You looked back at the stars. Thanks. In that moment, you realized something terrifying. You liked him, and not in the way you liked all of them. It made your head spin when they fought over you and flustered you with their affection. No, this was different. This was real. Number 2, the shift. After that night, something changed. You started noticing things about him. Things that had never really been there. You never really paid attention to. Like the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, or how he tapped his fingers against his leg when he was deep in thought. The way he'd lean into you without realizing. Just like it was second nature to be close to you. And most of all, the way you reacted to him. You found yourself choosing to sit next to him, seating him out more. When you had the chance, you found yourself laughing a little harder at his jokes, and your face warming when he shot you that stupid, charming grin. You weren't sure if he noticed, but you definitely did, and so did the others. 3, the others start noticing. You've been spending a lot of time with Kaminari lately? Mina mused, knowing a smirk on her face. He nearly choked on your drink. What? I really haven't. Sero raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you have. Kirishima grinned. Not that we blame you, he's a cool dude. Bakugo just scowled. Whatever. He groaned. You guys are reading way too into this. But you knew. They weren't. Apparently so did Denki. 4. The moment everything changed. It happened during movie night. You were all crammed up onto the common room couch, arguing what to watch. As usual, it was chaotic, and Bakugo was starting to leave. Mina was dramatically begging him to stay. Kirishima seemed to just play playing mediator, and Sero was just enjoying the show. In the middle of it all, Denki plopped down beside you, draping an arm around your shoulders like it was the most natural thing he'd ever could have done in the world. You froze, but it wasn't the first time he'd been like this. Denki was touchy with particularly everybody, but this time your heart skipped a beat. You swallowed, trying to play it cool. But then he leaned in slightly, his warm breath against your ear. You okay? He murmured, just enough for you to hear. You turned your head and suddenly you were way too close. His golden eyes flickered over your face. His usual playful grin was nowhere in sight. Then, out of a moment of recklessness, you whispered back, I think I like you. The words barely left your mouth before you actually realized what you'd said, and your eyes widened in horror. Denki blinked, and then his lips curled into the most softest, genuine smile you'd ever seen. Yeah, he said, voice quiet, like he couldn't actually believe what you had just said. You hesitated, but then gathered your courage, and nodded. Yeah. His grin turned bright enough to rival the sun. Well, damn, he whispered, fingers absent-mindedly playing with the hem of your sleeve. That's kind of amazing. Your heart raced. But before any of you could say anything, Mina screamed. Oh my god, I knew it. The entire room erupted into chaos. Kirishima cheered, Sero whistled, Bakugo groaned, and Kaminari just pulled you closer, his laughter ringing throughout the room. You buried your hand in your face. I hate all of you. Denki chuckled, squeezing your shoulder. Nah, you love us. And he wasn't wrong, especially him. But days turned to weeks, and the chaos in the common room didn't settle down for a while. Mina was practically vibrating with excitement and clapping you on the back like you just won some grand battle, and Sero was making extremely exaggerated kissing noises. Even Bakugo, as much as he pretended not to care, shot you a look somewhere between annoyance, jealousy, and approval. Denki, for his part, was absolutely glowing. He hadn't stopped smiling since the words left her mouth, and he sure as hell wasn't letting you go anytime soon. His arm was still slung around your shoulders, his fingers playing with your sleeve, like he couldn't believe you were real. And honestly, neither could you. You hadn't meant to blurt it out. You hadn't even really fully processed what you actually said until the words left your mouth. They were already hanging in the air by the time you actually had. But the moment you saw the way Denki's face lit up, like you just handed him the greatest gift in the world, you knew you didn't regret it. The aftermath. It took forever for everyone to settle back down. Even after the movie started, Mina kept sneaking glances at you and Kaminari, nudging you both every time you so much as shifted in the seat. Kirishima kept winking at you. Sero would dramatically sigh every few minutes like this was the most romantic thing he'd ever witnessed. And Bakugo, well, okay, he wasn't really part of this, he just muttered damn extras under his breath and pretended to be watching the movie. Meanwhile, Denks was in his own little world. Every so often, his fingers would brush against your hand like he was testing the waters, waiting to see if you'd pull away. You didn't, and when you finally just laced your fingers with yours, squeezing your heart gently, something ridiculous happened in your chest. Neither of you said anything. You just sat there, hands intertwined, pretending to invest in whatever dumb movie was playing on the screen. But Denki was so bad at hiding his excitement. His knee bounced every so often. His thumb kept tracing patterns against his skin, and at one point, Mina caught his eye and smirked. He shot her the most obnoxiously smug grin you'd ever seen. You groaned, burying your face in his shoulder. God, they're never gonna let it go, are they? Denki chuckled, leaning his head against yours. Nope, but hey, worth it. 2, the morning after. You kind of half expected the excitement to die down by now, but oh no, if anything, it was worse. When you stepped in the common room, you immediately met with a chorus of oohs from Mina and Sero. Oh my god, do you guys ever take a break? You groaned, dragging a hand on your face. Kirishima beamed at you. Nope. And Bakugo, who had clearly had enough of this already, stood up from the couch with a scowl. If you're gonna be disgustingly happy about this, at least do it somewhere I don't have to hear it. Denki snorted. Aw, come on, Kat-chan, don't be jealous. Bakugo's eye twitched. Shut up. You shoved Kaminari playfully, before he got himself exploded. just as he grinned to you, still riding the high of last night. Hey, he murmured, nudging you before whispering something to you. You do, still feel the same since last night, right? Your face warmed. Yeah, I do. His smile softened. Cool, me too. Yeah, for all the bravo he had, you were glad you chose Kaminari. I mean, he was annoying sometimes, but he really was a sweet guy, and your first choice. After the chaos of the Bakusquad's confession, you thought things might settle down. You were wrong. If anything, it made things even more intense. The competition continued, but little by little you started to notice one person standing out. Bakugo. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't something you consciously decided. It just kind of happened. Maybe it was the way he always seemed to notice when you were tired, shoving a water bottle or a protein bar at you without a word. Or how he never coddled you, and he always made sure to have your back. Or maybe it was the way he looked at you, like he was trying to figure you out, like you were something so damn important. And then there were the small things. How he always made sure to sit next to you, even if he pretended it was coincidence. How he, quote, hated when Kaminari or Sero got too touchy with you. How you laughed at his grumpiness and his ears would turn a little bit red. You weren't sure when it started, but at some point, you weren't just friends. You just found yourself looking at him, looking for him, and that was terrifying. Number 1. Denial is a river in Egypt. You weren't ready to admit it. Not to yourself, and definitely not to him. So you did what any rational person would do. You ignored it. Duh. You still laughed at Kaminari's took up lines. You still let Mina drag you into ridiculous situations. And you still sparred with Kaminari, Kirishima, and Sero. But when Bakugo was around, he tried so hard to act normal that it was probably less normal. And he definitely noticed. Oi, he grunted after an afternoon. The hell's your problem? You blinked at him. What? He narrowed his eyes. You've been acting weird. He forced to laugh. I have no idea what you're on about. His frown deepened, but for a second it looked like he was about to say something. But then Kirishima called your name and you very conveniently used that as an escape. Cowardly? Yes. But effective? Also yes. Number 2. The breaking point. Unfortunately, you could only run from your feelings for so long. It happened after a particularly brutal training section. Everyone else had left, but you stayed behind, trying to shake off the frustration after a bad fight. Bakugo had destroyed you in a sparring match earlier, and while you didn't usually mind losing, something about this one just got to you. So you kept going. Drills, punches, kicks, anything to work off the frustration. You didn't even notice Bakugo was still there until you missed a step and nearly collapsed. A firm hand grabbed your wrist before you could hit the ground. The hell you're doing? He snapped, his grip tight but not painful. You're exhausted. You tried to shake him off. I'm fine. He didn't let go. No, you're not. Your jaw clenched. Why do you care? That made him really mad. His grip tightened and he yanked you forward so that you had no choice but to look at him. His red eyes burned with something intense. Because it pisses me off, okay? Watching you push yourself around like that, like you got something to prove. His voice was already low, almost a growl. You already proved it, dumbass. You're strong. Your heart stopped. For a moment, neither of you moved, and then you swallowed hard, muttering let me go. Bakugo hesitated, but then slowly, he did. But he didn't step back. You don't have to be the best all the time, he muttered. Ain't nobody here gonna think less of you. He looked away. That include you? You asked. Silence. Then, after a minute, softer than you'd ever heard him, he responds, yeah. And suddenly, it was so much harder to pretend you didn't have feelings for him. 3. The realization. After that night, things changed. Bakugo wasn't treating you any differently, but you were painfully aware of him now, of how much time he spent near you, of how protective he was of you, of the way that he looked at you when he thought you were paying attention. And the others seemed to notice too. One afternoon, Mina cornered you in the dorm hallway, eyes shining with mischief. So, she sang out, when are you going to admit it? You blinked. What? She scoffed. That you're totally into Bakugo. You nearly choked. What? Oh, come on. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of competing for you, but let's be real, I knew from the start he had the best chance. You opened your mouth and closed it again. That obvious, huh? She grinned. No, but he was being very obvious. That sent your brain into a tailspin. Bakugo obvious. Mina just winked. I'm just saying, if you want to do something about it, I think he'd be very into it. Number 4. The moment. You spent the next week overthinking everything. Should you say something? Should he say something? Would it just mess up your friendship? Or what if you were wrong? That'd be so embarrassing. It was exhausting. Then one night, Bakugo seemed to make the decision for you. You were heading back to the dorms when you spotted him sitting outside, arms crossed, staring at the stars. Normally you'd leave him alone when he was brooding, but this time you sat down beside him. You good? You asked. He didn't look at you, just scoffed. Shouldn't I be asking you that? You sighed. I don't know. The sun stretched on between you. The air was cool and the night was quiet. Then Bakugo let out a slow breath. This whole thing's stupid. You turned to him. What thing? He looked at you, and for once, his expression wasn't angry, it was serious. You know what? He said, his voice quieter than usual. I ain't good at this crap, but I know what I want. Your heart raced. Oh, and what do you want? You asked softly. He clenched his jaw and exhaled. You. It wasn't a confession laced with poetry. It wasn't smooth or romantic, but it was Bakugo, and it was honest, and it was raw, and it was real. And somehow it kind of made it perfect. For the first time, you let yourself smile. Took you long enough. His eyes widened, and he grabbed your hand. But you grabbed his first. You'd better not make me regret this, Katsuki. His fingers tightened around yours. Not a damn chance. And just like that, that slow burn finally ignited. Now, this confession had happened, but the words were out there. And now you had no idea what to do next. For one, Bakugo wasn't some love-sick idiot, and he wasn't about to become one just because he admitted he had liked you. He didn't start holding your hand in public. He didn't soften his voice or his words. He definitely didn't go around and announce to the whole school that you were his. But there were some changes. Small ones. Subtle ones. But you noticed. He didn't push your hand away when you reached for it. He let you steal fries from his plate during lunch without threatening to explode you. His eyes softened when he looked at you, even if he was scowling. And somehow, those small gestures meant anything more than a grand gesture ever could. The learning curve. Now, dating Bakugo Katsuki was, not easy. Not because he was cruel, he definitely wasn't. Not because he didn't care, he definitely did. But because this was new for him, and Bakugo hated being bad at literally anything. He didn't always know the right things to say. He didn't always understand when you needed comfort instead of a challenge. Didn't always realize that telling you to just be stronger wasn't actually very helpful when you were venting about a tough day. But the thing about Bakugo was he tried, and that made all the difference. One night you found him pacing outside your door, hand shoved into his pocket with a face twisted in frustration. What are you doing? You asked, stepping outside. He turned, eyes flicking your way. Thinking, he scoffed at you. Okay. About? A long pause, then finally, he grumbled out. You. Your breath caught. Oh. He scowled, clearly ignoring himself. I don't get it. I'm supposed to be good at everything, but this, he gestured a hand vaguely between you two. It was hard. You smiled, stepping closer. It's supposed to be. He frowned. Why? I don't know, Bakugo, because it matters. He stilled, and then very slowly reached his hand for yours, fingers brushing tentatively against your palm before gripping it properly. You gotta be patient with me, he muttered. He squeezed his hand. Always. Step 2. The squad noticing. The Bakusquad figured it out fast. Kirishima was the first to catch on. So, you guys, finally figured it out, huh? You and Bakugo both turned to him at the same time. The hell's that mean? Bakugo snapped. Kirishima grinned. Dude, we all knew you had a thing for YN. You weren't exactly subtle. And I mean, I guess we did too, but whatever. He raised an eyebrow. Mina scoffed. Oh, come on, guys. Been acting like a guard dog around you for months. Sero nodded. Yeah. But last week you literally glared at me for sitting too close to them. Bakugo looked effortlessly outraged at that. I did not. Kaminari smirked. Dude, you totally did. Bakugo's eyes twitched violently. Shut the hell up before I blow your head off. You just laughed, squeezing his arm. Relax, Katsuki, it's cute. His face turned red. Shut up. Your first fight. Now, of course, nothing was perfect, but the first fight had happened fast, an explosion waiting to spark. He'd been training with Deku, nothing unusual, nothing even weird. Bakugo hated it. The moment he stepped into this training room and saw you sparring with him, his entire body was tense. And then, when Deku landed a pretty solid hit on you and knocked you to the ground, that was it. How you doing, Deku? He snarled, storming over before he could even get up. Deku blinked. Training? He asked stupidly. You hit them, he scolded. You groaned, pushing yourself off the ground. Bakugo, that's kind of the point of it. He wasn't listening. His glare wasn't locked on Deku. Shoulders tense as his fists were clenched, and suddenly it pissed you off. What, you don't think I could stand up for myself? He snapped. His eyes flickered to you still burning. That's not what I... No, seriously, Katsuki. Do you think I'm weak? You cut him off. Silence. Slowly his jaw clenched. It's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He exhaled. Damn it. He ran a hand through his hair. frustrated. I just don't like seeing you get hurt, okay? Pisses me off. The anger deflated a little bit. Bakugo, I need to fight. I want to be strong. That means you gotta take hits sometimes. His eyes met yours conflicted. I know, just don't expect me to. You smiled softly. I wouldn't dream of it, Gachan. You knew dating Bakugo was gonna be hard. He was stubborn, and he was rude, and he was mean, and he was scary. But you knew that you could figure it out. And maybe this was the right choice. Maybe you did love it. Maybe you loved it in different ways. Maybe you loved all of them. And maybe that's why it was so difficult to choose. But as the days passed, something changed. It wasn't big, not at first, but it was there. A subtle shift in your heart. And a subtle shift in the way it reacted whenever Sero was around. It wasn't that you didn't enjoy the company of the others, Bakugo's protectiveness, Kirishima's loyalty, Kaminari's playful flirting, and Mina's boldness. But there was something about Sero, something effortless, something that didn't feel like a competition. It felt easy. And maybe that's why, when he slid next to you on the couch one night, something just clicked into place. You know, you never answered, he said casually, draping an arm across the back of the couch. You looked up from your phone. Answered what? You asked. He smirked. $1 million question. Who's your favorite? Your stomach did a weird little flip. You guys said I didn't have to choose yet. That's true, he admitted. But I gotta know. Am I even in the running? You turned to face him fully, taking him in. The way he was always close, but never overbearing. The way he flirted but never pushed too hard. The way he just made you laugh whenever you needed it. The way he was looking at you now and waiting. You swallowed. Yes, you are. Sarah's smirk faltered for a second. Like he wasn't actually expecting you to say that. Like he wanted to believe, but just needed to hear it again. So you gave him a small nervous smile. You really are. For a moment he just stared at you, his dark eyes unreadable. Then before you could even process it, or what was happening, he moved closer, his face inches from yours. Can I test something? He asked, voice lower than usual. Your breath caught. Test what? This, he murmured. And then he kissed you. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't grand, sweeping gesture, it was slow and careful, like he was making sure you wanted it just as much as he did. And you did. Your fingers curled into his hoodie, pulling him just a little bit closer. He tilted his head, deepening the kiss for just a second before pulling away with a grin. So, he murmured, his forehead resting against yours. How's the test? You laughed, breathless. You passed. He chuckled, pulling back slightly. Good to know. The moment should have been perfect until, well, a very loud gasp shattered it. Oh my god! You both practically jumped apart, whipping your head around towards the doorway. Mina was standing there, mouth open in a delighted shock. Behind her were Kirishima, Kaminari, and Bakugo, all frozen in various states of disbelief. Well, damn, Kirishima muttered. Are you serious? Mina shrieked, bouncing in her heels. This is so cute. I can't even. Bakugo just crossed his arms and scowled. Whatever. You blinked. Wait, you knew? course I knew, he scoffed. You've been looking at him different for weeks. Your face burned. No, I haven't. Kirishima chuckled. You kinda have, dude. You groaned, covering your face. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. Sero, on the other hand, looked way too pleased with himself. Wait, does this mean I won? Mina smacked him in the arm. Don't say it like that, this isn't some game. Didn't stop us from shooting it like one. Kaminari muttered. Kirishima smiled at you. You happy? You glanced at Sero, who was already watching you, waiting for your answer. A smile graced your lips. Yeah, I am. Then that's all that matters, Kirishima said, giving you a thumbs up. Mina wiggled her fingers excitedly. Okay, so now this is a thing. I demand all the details. How did you know? Who kissed first? How long have you guys actually been secretly dating? We're not secretly dating, you cut in. Yep, Sero added smoothly, tossing an arm around your shoulder. You shot him a look and he just grinned. Kaminari huffed. Man, I was so close. Were you? Bakugo deadpanned. Kaminari shot him a look. Let me have this, dude. Mina gasped dramatically. Wait, does this mean that Sero gets extra cuddle privileges? Because I demand a rotation system. You groaned. Mina, Kirishima laughed. We're all still gonna be close, man. You're part of the squad. And after that is what made it perfect. After everything, even the competition, the teasing, the flirting, you knew it wasn't gonna change anything. They were still your best friends and your family. And Sero was just a little bit more. Maybe a lot bit more. The thoughts settled into your chest, and the days followed, weaving themselves into every glance, every laugh, every touch, every moment with Sero. I mean, it wasn't like anything had drastically changed. I mean, let's be real, not really. The group was still operating like it always had. Loud and chaotic and impossibly close. With teasing jabs and spontaneous movie nights and late-night takeout runs. But it was different, because now every time Sero slid next to you on the seat, let his leg press against yours, every time he cracked a joke, he'd look at you first, like you wanted to make sure you laughed. And every time you caught him smiling and watching you, he didn't look away. He just grinned. And you let yourself lean into it. Because why wouldn't you? It was so easy. It was so Sero. It was just so nice. So when Mina announced a mandatory squad hangout one evening, you didn't think twice before saying yes. You just grabbed your jacket and followed the group to Kirishima's place, where he had somehow managed to gather an absurd amount of snacks and unlimited blankets for what Mina was calling the, and I quote, unlimited movie night experience. Sero plopped in on the couch first, patting the space next to him. Come on, favorite person. You rolled your eyes but sat down. That's a bold title. Well, you did say I was your favorite. No, one of my favorites. You corrected him, ignoring the knowing smirk on his face. Kaminari collapsed onto the floor in front of you, groaning dramatically. Ugh, the favoritism is sickening. Mina, already curled up with a blanket, gasped. Wait, does this mean YN is officially off the market? You blinked. What? Bakugo snorted from a spot on the armchair. About time you idiots figured it out. Sero just grinned, throwing an arm around your shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the entire world. What do you think, weighing you off the market? Your brain short-circuited for a second, because, well, were you? The thought sent a rush of warmth throughout you, something thrilling and terrifying all at once. It wasn't like you and Sero had talked about it. You hadn't sat down and defined whatever it was that this was, but the way he looked at you now, that playful but little hopeful thing in your chest made you click into place. So you shrugged, a small smile tugging at your lips. I don't know. I guess it depends. Sero raised an eyebrow. You turned to fully face him. On whether or not you're gonna ask me. For a split second, surprise flickered across his face, and then a grin widened, eyes warm, and he tilted his head. I don't know, it could be. Mina squealed. Kirishima chuckled. Kaminari muttered something about shoving a handful of popcorn in his mouth. He rolled your eyes, but didn't look away from Sero. So? He pretended to think about it, tapping his chin dramatically. Well, I could ask, but then again, I'd have to make it official, and then I'd have to start calling you my partner, and then we'd have to do cute couple things, like hold hands and steal each other's hoodies. Oh my god, Mina groaned. Just ask already. Sero laughed, squeezing her shoulder before dropping his voice just enough for the rest of the word to fade out. Wanna be mine? He asked. Your heart skipped. Oh. You could hear Kaminari fake gagging. You could feel Mina practically vibrating with excitement, but none of it mattered, because Sero was looking at you like you were the only thing in the world, and God, you wanted it. So you smiled and nudged him lightly. Yeah, I do. As the days dragged on after the Bakugo's competition, every single one trying to catch your attention with their own way of charming and teasing and competing for a spot of your heart. But through it all, there was one person whose presence remained steadfast, a presence that became more significant as the days passed. That person? Kirishima. He was loud and energetic and always the first to offer a hand. But there was something different in the way that he looked at you. Something more than just friendship. At first you hadn't noticed. I mean, how could you? It was kind of hard to distinguish any deeper feeling amidst the chaotic storm of flirtation and pranks and joystick for your attention. But the more time you spent with him, the closer you realized that Kirishima wasn't like the others. His attention was gentler, his gestures were more considerate, his affection was more constant. One, the subtle shift. It wasn't like you hadn't noticed him. He hadn't noticed how he'd always gravitate towards you. Whether it was in training or when he would be wanting to guide you through the drills with patience, or study sessions where he would offer to share notes, he always made sure you were included. It was the small things, like the way he'd check on you when you looked tired, or how he'd make you laugh when you were feeling down. AYN, Kirishima called one evening after a particularly tough training session. You good? You've been looking a little bit out of it lately. You smiled weakly. I'm fine, just, a bit worn out, I guess. Oh. Wanna grab some snacks? My treat. Kirishima suggested, flashing you a warm grin. You shook your head, chuckling. Oh, you don't have to do that, Kiri. Oh, no, I don't mind, he insisted, eyes bright. Besides, you deserve a treat. You've been working hard. You hesitated, but agreed. The two of you wandered off to the snack machine together, laughing as you both argued over which chips were better. It wasn't much, but it was a small moment, and it was something undeniably comforting with him. 2. Protectiveness. As time went on, you began to notice he would always make sure you were okay. During late night studying, exams, when the stress of the world seemed to weigh down on you, Kirishima would be there, offering to help you with whatever you were struggling with. His natural kindness radiated, and it made you feel like you could handle anything with him by your side. One night, you were sitting in the common room, eyes sore from reading the same textbook page for what felt like hours. Kirishima was sprawled out on the couch, his large frame taking up a significant amount of it. You hadn't realized he'd been watching you until he suddenly sat up. "You alright, Ryan?" he asked, his voice quiet but filled with concern. Yeah, just tired," you muttered, rubbing your eyes. He stood, stretching. "Come on, take a break. You've been at this for ages." Before you could protest, he tugged gently on your sleeve, urging you to get up. You allowed him to pull you outside into the cold night air. The moment you stepped outside, you immediately felt more at ease. Kirishima leaned against the railing, arms crossed over his chest as he looked at you. "You don't have to do everything alone, you know." You met his gaze, heart warming at the softness in his eyes. "I know, I guess I don't. I don't like asking people for help." "That's okay," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "But if you ever need it, I'm here." Number 3. The moment of vulnerability. It wasn't until one evening, after a particularly exhausting day of training, the walls you had built began to crumble. You spent most of the day trying to keep yourself with the others, pushing yourself beyond your limits to prove that you were capable. Kirishima had noticed, of course. He always noticed, along with the Bakusquad, something was different this time. You were sitting by yourself in the common room, exhausted and emotionally drained. When Kirishima walked in, he stopped when he saw you. His usual bright expression replaced with something more serious. You okay?" he asked, sitting down without hesitation. You nodded, but it was weak. Too weak to fool anybody, let alone him. Kirishima didn't speak first, his hands moving cautiously to rest on your shoulder. "You don't have to be strong all the time, you know." You let out a shaky breath, fighting the tears that had been building up for hours. It was hard to let anybody see the cracks in your facade, but there was something about the way Kirishima's quiet strength made it impossible to hold back. "I'm just tired of always feeling like I have to keep up with everyone," you admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Like, I'm not enough, no matter how hard I try." Kirishima was silent, his thumb stroking gently over your shoulder in a comforting rhythm. "And you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Not to me, not to anybody." His words were simple, but they hit you like a wave, slowly. You turned to look back at him, finding him already staring back with warm, soft eyes. "I know you're always there for me, Kiri," he whispered. "And I don't want to lose that." He smiled softly, reaching out gently to brush a lock of hair from your face. "You won't lose me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've got your back. Always." In that moment, you felt shifted between you and Kiri. You felt it. Something had definitely shifted. It was like an unspoken understanding, a quiet connection that had been there all along, waiting for the right moment to surface. 3. The slow burn. The days that followed were filled with a new kind of energy. Kirishima's presence became everything you couldn't ignore. Every laugh, every shared glance, every quiet moment between the two of you built something stronger than just friendship. He was always there for you, but now it felt different, more intimate, more special. And as you spent more time together, you realized that the feelings you had for him were slowly but surely blossoming into something deeper, something you hadn't expected. It wasn't loud or flashy like the others. It wasn't rushed or of passion or overwhelming competition. It was slow. It was slow and steady and real. Kirishima made you feel safe and valued and understood in a way that nobody else ever could. And maybe that was the kind of love you're looking for. "Hey man," Kirishima said one evening as you both sat on the rooftop watching the sunset. "I'm glad I'm here with you." He smiled, heart skipping a beat. "Yeah, me too." For the first time in a long time, you felt like everything was falling into place. The days continued to pass, and you find yourself looking forward to every moment you spent with him. It was no longer just about the little gestures, the shared snacks, or late-night talks. It was the quiet moments where your hearts seemed to be in sync. You started to realize that beyond your feelings for him had grown beyond friendship. And you really, really liked him.